Hello everybody, this is Gynarchic Awakening. I had a video up for a little while, but when I looked at it again, I didn't really like it. And so this will be the third time, I believe, I've tried to do this video, if memory serves correctly. If not, memory's all fucked up. But yeah, I didn't like that video, didn't like the way I talked about it, didn't like the way I presented the information, so I'm gonna hopefully do it correctly this time. The topic or the question of the video is this: is it enough to phase out the harmful elements that are leading to a male-led dominated society? The reason why I asked this question is because I believe one of two things about male rapists, about these predators. I believe that there are some men who are just inherently more predatory than others, and that the only thing you can really do is put them in their place by giving women the authority that they need, the power that they need to tell those individuals enough is enough. Don't fucking, cross this line, you shall not pass. That kind of stuff. But then there are some other men who find ways to rationalize their bad behavior or who rationalize themselves into behaving poorly, especially when it comes to acts of physical abuse or rape. And that leads me to wondering if maybe that would be enough, if like just phasing it out is enough, because it's kind of like a case of the chicken or the egg story. What came first? But in this case, it's more like what came first: the thoughts behind an act of rape or the rape itself. And I don't think that these mythologies would have manifested and developed in the ways that they did if it were not for rapey thoughts. I believe that the thoughts existed first, the misogyny existed first, and then everything came after that. And so I think that because people do have fucked up thoughts, especially men, maybe it would be there's something else we can do. Maybe it would be good to create counter mythologies or gynarchic mythologies that examine these fucked up thoughts that they're having and breaking them down to see that this isn't acceptable. This is wrong, and why that is. I think that would be a good way to go about it. I mean, one thing I'd love to see is a story about some kind of interdimensional or some kind of powerful being trying to talk a woman into accepting being impregnated, and the woman listing all the reasons why she doesn't want to do it, and why it's just wrong. It's just bad. You shouldn't. Why? Like, I mean, something like that. Some kind of story where you illuminate to the audience that this is fucked up, and it's not just some like skit. It's not just like some comic strip where you're exposing the folly or stupidity of it, but where you have a mythology that not only venerates women, but that explains why the autonomy is necessary. Now, what the impetus for the creation of the video had to do with some thoughts I had on the way back home from a grocery store visit, and it concerned the Phantom Menace. Now, I'm not proud of this, but when I was younger, there were a lot of things that I accepted uncritically, a lot of messages and beliefs that I internalized without ever realizing I was even doing it. And when I look back today, I just, there is a sense of shame. There's also a sense that maybe I shouldn't have been watching this stuff in the first place, because it was just, I mean, there's always going to be things you like about films and stuff that you hate about them. But when I think about this one particular movie, I can't help but wonder if it had to be this way, or if it was only this way because it more closely represented a story or a few stories in older mythologies or fables. So, the movie that I'm referring to is The Phantom Menace, and it's the scene where, not just scene, but series of scenes involving Qui-Gon Jinn, Shmi Skywalker, as well as others. And what ended up happening was Shmi Skywalker was forcibly impregnated by a mystical thing called the Force. She did not get a say in this. Her consent did not matter. And to make things worse, she was already enslaved to an individual named Watto. So she already has no choice. She already has to serve one master, but she ends up being a slave to a cosmic force as well. And then I believe she's sold and killed. So she never gets to exist for her own reasons. She never gets to have her own dreams or goals. Everything that happens to her, she is ultimately just to be used for something else, whether it's the plot, whether it's for other people's service, amusement, whatever. She doesn't get to be her own person. And this deprivation of her personhood is actually symbolic of something that to this day we still are in our own ways. We try to draw attention to it. The fact that women are not only deprived of their personhood, but people still have regular conversations about stripping them of their rights. And I do think, this is my personal opinion, that these movies and some of the messaging, some of the writing in them is not only problematic, but it influences men in all the wrong ways. Men come like in the movie itself, Shmi Walker. I mean, the reason why the men and the boys don't care, in part, not all of them, but in part, is because the characters do not care about what they're going through. And that's how it was written. And Shmi Skywalker is literally just rolling with the punches, so to speak. She just explained to Qui-Gon, oh, it just happened. So her thoughts and feelings are not laid out in a way to where we can sympathize with the struggle. We're not made to sympathize with her as if she were an actual human being with her own thoughts and feelings. She is treated like a plot device. She in many respects you could think of her, and that's not how you're supposed to think of a person, but you could think of her as just one step above, just a glorified plot device, with this background music, this mysterious music, as if, this is something like we're supposed to feel a sense of mystery and not a sense of fucking horror. That this person's consent was violated in this manner, and that most people watching this just accept it uncritically. It doesn't even cross their minds that this is morally reprehensible. That in order to balance the force, in order for there to be some kind of greater cosmic good, a woman had to be forcibly impregnated, and as a result of that impregnation, it led to her life led her to nowhere. I mean, it's really bizarre that the force is willing to the force itself is supposed to be just a mystical energy. It's not like it's not mystical energy. It's supposed to be some kind of thing that is beyond our understanding. But it's not beyond our understanding because it was made by humans. Humans construct these stories. And so if she doesn't care about what's going on with her and she's rolling with it, and Qui-Gon doesn't care, no one seemed to raise any objections to this woman and the way she was treated by this force, this entity. Not even like, why the fuck couldn't this have been done another way? It's supposed to be this all-powerful, energy field, whatever. Couldn't they have just found some other means by which to bring about a child or a chosen one? I mean, really? But that's the way that the story was written and handled. And so if none of the characters care, why should the young boys or men care about what's going on? Because the way it's being written, it's like, well, let's just get to the next scene, or, oh, this is just the way it is. Oh yeah, it's just the way it is, and this is just supposed to be like normalized and accepted as part of the story. Like that, it's no big deal that a woman's body was violated for the sake of some so-called greater good. Like that, in that sense, it become like people could literally, and they would if they're, especially if they're really hardcore fanboys, justify forcibly impregnating a woman because because it's utilitarian, because the act itself is utilitarian. I wouldn't want it. I mean, if I were a parent, I wouldn't want to show this movie to a son, and I hope that someday we get to a point where we have not only communities, but we have departments that screen this shit out for the rest of us so we don't have to. Because until we get to that stage, it's up to each parent individually to take a look at this and go, do I really want my kid watching something? And, something like this that is just utterly barbaric, that is morally reprehensible. And I just I don't think that that is good. And that's what really inspired the creation of the video, because I was busy thinking about like how I didn't even put a lot of thought into it back then. It was just so normalized, and that's because partially it wasn't the first mythology that involved a woman being impregnated by some kind of higher being or force or whatever. That wasn't the first time, so I didn't even think about the context of it. It was just so normal for me. And the problem with normalizing this kind of a thing is some men come away with the idea that women just exist for me, for my amusement, pleasure, whatever. They know their thoughts, their feelings, they don't matter. So why not? I mean, it's also disturbing that it's pretty much a point A. It's a direct point A, point B thing. There's no time spent, talking about what kind of shit she went through when she's pregnant, what possible health issues she got after being pregnant. Like the woman's perspective here, her suffering is literally minimized by excluding all of this information. Because the only thing that mattered to the author and to the writer was that this be the person who births the chosen one, not her life, not her struggles necessarily. Those things, especially as it relates to motherhood, don't really matter to the plot. What matters is her influence and effect on Anakin, because the story centers Anakin Skywalker, not Shmi Skywalker. She's just a means to an end by the plot. That's how the plot treats her. She is a means towards an end. She's a means towards balancing the Force. She's also a means towards Anakin Skywalker's character development. That's it. She doesn't get to be granted full personhood. She doesn't even get to be granted the right to complain about how fucked up her life was, or to express some level of what we would expect from somebody who was not only violated in that way, but who has been treated poorly. Like, I understand that some people are oppressed and beaten down, but no one said you couldn't talk about it in a way to where you get your feelings out, whether it's crying, being upset, wishing that it could be other way. None of this is present in these movies. What we have is somebody who's literally just like, okay, it happened, not really sure why. That's it. I'm like, that's it? No, that's not fucking cool. If it were up to me, if I were showing the Star Wars movies, it's one of two things. Either that scene needs to be edited, or just straight up removed from the film itself, because I wouldn't want to show my kids this shit. I wouldn't want my son coming away thinking, women's fun, they don't matter, And it's a really big thing when the son is the focus, when it is the male that is the savior who's supposed to do this great deed, but the mother, once she's served her purpose, so to speak, just brushed aside. Just like, oh yeah, now, go die now. Like, you're not needed for the plot anymore. I mean, just this kind of shit really. Like today, I look at it and I'm just like, wow. But back then, it never gave it a second thought, because these mythologies had been so normalized. And that's why I think that it's not just enough to phase out these elements. I think that they've become part of the collective consciousness of our species, where we've taken these stories in, and I don't think it's enough to just phase out and get rid of them. I think we need counter mythologies. That's how I feel. But how do you feel about it? Thank you for your time. Please take care, and I hope you have a great day. Gotta get going.